House of the Dragon, season 2, episode 2, Rhaenyra the Cruel. Ooh. Fucking another banger of an episode. This is one of those. Let's do spoiler free real quick.
Okay. Phenomenal acting performance.
Can't believe it. Can't believe how fucking good
all
it is.
Around, but there's
cannot believe how good it is. Yeah. From everybody.
Yeah.
Just everyone in this show is just so fucking great. The Raymond Djawadi writes such good music, and in this universe, it is as important as any of the characters, and he knows right when to pull in a theme. They use there's a certain point of the episode where they use the same. He introduces a theme when Viserys dies in the next episode at the beginning, that he brings back in this episode, that is heart-wrenching and is so beautiful. Not a lot of crazy shit in this.
Not a lot of crazy shit. We do. This is veering close to spoilers, but we do kind of see both sides kind of fracturing a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're not as united as they would like to be.
It is sure nice knowing that Alicent is a terrible mother. Right?
We kind of already knew that.
Rhaenyra's a good mom. Alicent's not, unless your name is Helena. And then she loves you very much, right?
Well, I mean, look at her other two sons. They're psychopaths.
Yeah. Oh, in different ways. Yes, holy God.
Very much so. But
yeah, but this episode was one of those classic Game of Thrones, let's all process what just happened episodes. The thing is that ordinarily in the formula, that's episode 10.
This is 2.
Yeah, it's like the big thing happens in episode 9. Ned Stark dies. There's the Red Wedding. The Viper in the Mountain. Fucking Jon Snow died. Spoilers, by the way. All this shit. Episode 9. Episode 10 is the let's process and think about what happens next, and then it's over, right? Yeah. I happen to know that I think either in an episode or 2, the episode name is Dance of the Dragons, and there's a duel in this episode that is amazing, absolutely amazing, between two characters. When I was watching the behind the scenes material on it, one of the showrunners was like, it was really nice. We have this show that's full of these vicious, huge dragon battles. And it was nice just to have two knights fighting for a second. But what I heard was vicious dragon battles. And I was like, I would like to see them, please. Right now. Yeah. So I think that's as much. I mean, there isn't a shit ton of stuff to spoil in this one. Like there weren't any big, like, shocking things. But we are going to spoil it. Yeah. If you've not seen the episode yet, go check it out.
So we open with the immediate aftermath of, the child murder.
Jaehaerys's. Yeah. Also, we got to be a little careful. We need to think of like a new word for that, because YouTube does not like those particular words. So we could do like the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Okay.
So they discovered the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, right?
And they're shuffling all the groupies out of the palace.
Yeah.
Trying to lock everything down.
We could say Jaehaerys's murder, because YouTube doesn't know that Jaehaerys is, Okay. In fact, there are at least 2 Jaehaeryses in this show, so it could be the old one or not the old one. The discovery of the murder is shocking to everyone. Least of which, or probably most intensely for Aegon, who is losing his shit. Rex Viserys's model city.
Dude, come on. I know, but holy shit.
Yeah.
That was your father's life's work.
Yeah. They made a stunt version of that because they were so attached to the original one they built. They just did a stunt one so you could wreck it. They 3D printed it, by the way. Oh, cool. Yeah, it was pretty neat. Aemond finds the secret door in his room that they came in.
He's like, oh.
I don't think he knew that was there.
I don't think so.
I think he was like, I have secret passages in my room. He also notices that all the coins that they're using on the map were gone.
Yep.
And like you can see, he's got one eye, but he's got a big fucking brain, right?
The wheels are turning there.
So Otto and Alicent have a little talk, and Alicent's like, I'm being punished by the gods, and she's really upset that Helena is hurt, right? And Otto is already thinking politics.
Otto's like, first of all, there is no God.
Yeah.
Second of all,
Otto,
we turn this to
Otto would be an atheist.
Yeah.
Otto would be a Christian when it is politically expedient.
Whatever the dominant faith of the seven
the
kingdoms
seven
is.
or the 7-pointed star, right?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
He would be religious when it's politically
Yeah,
advantageous.
and he's like, I got to bang an idea. Let's parade his dead body through the street with you guys right behind him, and we'll get a bunch of sympathy from everyone.
Allison's like, that's a terrible idea. He's like, no, it's actually really good. And she's like,
I guess so. Yeah, you convinced me.
Helena is
Nope.
that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, Helena's not very keen on it. They have a small council meeting. Aegon just rages at everyone.
Yeah.
There's this really interesting. So he turns to every person at some point. It's like, it's your fucking fault. Does it to Cole.
Turns to Kristen Cole, says, where the fuck were you when my kid was at the Backstreet Boys reunion tour?
Yeah.
And Kristen Cole says, I was abed. And like he and
with your mom.
Yes. Like he and Allison share a glance, and he's like, I was in bed.
He starts to go off on Allison. And you might notice that Larys Strong used that as an opportunity to speak up and distract him.
Excuse me, sir.
To pull the ire away from her, right?
He's like, we got a guy.
Yeah, he's like,
out.
He's like, I should have said this when I walked in the door.
Yeah.
But we found a guy with your son's head in his bag. Do you want to see it? And they're like, oh no. God. So Helena is out of her mind with grief.
Yes. Understandably so.
So one of the themes in this episode is the Rhaenyra and Helena are both now grieving mothers, right? And I have a feeling that if you were to get Rhaenyra and Helena in a room together, they would realize that what was happening wasn't each other's fault, right? Like directly.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see Allison interact with a kid she actually loves, because she tries to comfort her. The thing is that Helena is coded as neurodivergent, so she doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't like to make eye contact. She's in her own little world, right? Which, by the way, her chambers, I don't know if you noticed, there's a bunch of graffiti everywhere in her chambers. She just draws her dreams everywhere. And she's got her bugs everywhere. She's got like little cages, little like fucking grasshoppers and shit.
I mean, everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah, like you said, she's not a big fan of the funeral thing. She's like, I don't enjoy that. Sounds like a bad idea.
It's like, I don't want everyone looking at me. I don't know them.
Yeah. So they have the funeral procession. And obviously it's a publicity stunt. And they're pulling Jaehaerys through on his little funeral thing.
There's a really disturbing look at Jaehaerys with his head stitched onto his neck.
So I guess the in-universe explanation for this is that the Silent Sisters didn't have enough time to do all of their work because Otto wanted it out good to go, right?
The next day.
Yeah. They got the one guy that got that.
I also think it's a little bit more if your goal is to get people upset about this, it's more convenient to show it like a little bit brutal. Yeah. Like it reminds me real world parallel, Emmett Till.
Oh, sure.
His mom insisted on open casket service,
right? Yeah.
So that people could see what they did to her child.
Were you afraid that head was going to fall off the whole time?
No, because
I was.
If it was the boys, yes.
Oh yeah, it would like land in Helena's lap or something.
But this is not that kind of show.
Yeah. I thought it was going to fall off, or he was just going to fall off entirely. That's an amazing prosthetic, by the way. That's not the actor.
I would hope not.
It's not CG. It is they took a body scan of that actor and just made a fucking unlifelike looking thing. There's the one guy that got hired just to walk in front and shit on Rhaenyra the whole time. He's like, look at how much of a bitch Rhaenyra is. Rhaenyra the fucking awful. Rhaenyra. And
Rhaenyra the pretender.
Yeah, he's spilling all the tea about Rhaenyra, right? Because you know that this is a guy that like Otto has to know in his personal life. He's like, oh, he shits on people so well. We're gonna get that guy. So, like we said, Jaehaerys' head is mostly secured to his body, which I think it was a purposeful thing. There is all of the small folk are throwing hops. Yeah. Right. And there is this gorgeous shot, this like award-winning shot of Helena looking up into the sky with her veil, and it's slow. They shot it at 40 frames a second so they could do slow motion and get all the detail and stuff. And I've seen people theorize that maybe she's having a vision.
I think that's what we're meant to take away.
It's a good spot to she also is like about to have a panic attack.
Yes.
Which I think any normal person would anyway, right? But it's a good spot to note that there are shots from the trailer that didn't make it into the episode, which means that either they're not from this episode and they're from something else, and maybe it was a vision that she had.
Or they pulled a Rogue One and shot things specifically for the trailer.
Yeah, maybe. Or they just didn't use it, which was Alicent and Helena in their funeral garb running away from a chasing public. So I don't know what's up with that. The funeral carriage gets stuck on a rock, and that's when I thought his head was going to fall off. I really did. And of course, Eric is the one who's like trying to like, it's a fucking rock. We switch to,
there's a scene where like they're stuck there and the whole crowd is kind of closing in, and Helena is like really not okay with that.
No touch.
She's like trying to stand up. Like
she's like that droid from Rise of Skywalker. She's like, no, thank you. No.
She's like, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah. So Blood confesses to Larys.
Like Larys walks in, lays out his tools. Blood's immediately like, "Yep, David Cardarian hired me. He said half up front, half when I get done. We got a rat catcher. He's how we got into the castle. Would you like to know anything else?"
Blood's like, "Let me tell you, this is your lucky day. I am the easiest interrogation you will ever have." And so he's like, "Okay, well, cool. I'm not going to cut you to pieces." And he's like, you're not going to fucking do things to me?
I'm not going to touch you, but he is.
And then fucking Aegon walks in with a mace.
Yep.
Beats the dude dead, right? So on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra learns about the murder.
She's like, I didn't order that.
Yeah.
Why do people think I had anything to do with
So
this?
First of all, Jace wants to go and patrol King's Landing, and she will not hear of it. And it's because she's like, oh, our kids are in play now. And like if we're doing the son for son thing, he's one of my sons. Also, she probably has a little bit of PTSD from Lucerys. Yeah. And so she's like, nope. We'll send literally anyone else.
Yep.
So she's like, I wonder who could have done this. And Rhaenys looks over at Daemon, and Daemon's like,
Daemon just looks
bitch,
back
it was me. Let's not shit ourselves here. So they're like, one of her guys, by the way, is like, look, you're a grieving mother and you're a woman, so you're emotional. You can tell us if you did it. And Rhaenyra stands up. They had this fight like over Rhaenys, right? And she's like, I will punch you in the fucking balls. Yeah. And then he says something, and then Rhaenys is like, fucking watch yourself. And we know that she's talking to him, but both of them heard it, right? Yeah. And it's a nice little moment with Rhaenys. The entire time, by the way, Rhaenys is staring at Daemon. She doesn't take her eyes off him the entire scene.
You motherfucker.
Yeah. So she finally, Rhaenyra looks around and everyone's staring at Daemon. And she's like, what are you guys all fucking staring? And she looks at Daemon. She's like, oh God. Oh no.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So
we cut away.
She's like, to our room.
To our chambers.
Yeah. Daemon's like, I didn't mean to. It was a mistake. And she's like, oh my God.
You fucking idiot.
What have you done? She's like, you weakened my claim. Like, who the fuck knows what's going to happen now? Yeah. And
like, we were turning people to our side. Now they think I killed a fucking child.
Yeah.
Like,
Backstreet Boys
reunion tour. Sorry.
They thought I did a Backstreet Boys reunion tour. So she's like, look, I've finally had enough of your shit.
Yes.
I can't trust you. It used to be a challenge when we were kids, but it's not cute anymore. I cannot fucking take this anymore. And there's a moment where Daemon looks like he might strangle her again, and he doesn't. And she looks like she might flinch, but holds her ground. And I wonder if there was a conversation that happened between seasons where Rhaenyra's like, you ever fucking touch me again, I'll have you killed.
There is excellent acting in this scene, because like
this is one of the scenes I was talking
Daemon
about.
gets all up in her face, and like she's like concerned. Like she's breathing a little bit heavily, and not just because they've been shouting.
But her face is like, I fucking dare you.
Like she is composed, even if she's physically feeling some fear.
Yeah. So Daemon keeps referring to the Iron Throne as his brother's throne. It's obviously still in his mind.
Yeah.
It's not Rhaenyra's, right? Or at least he's having trouble expressing that.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, am I the queen or not? And he's like, who can tell?
I mean, we're about to fight a war over that very question, aren't we?
You're not my queen. And she's like, that's not good enough. And Daemon's like, look, Viserys chose me chose you to put me in my place. Like he was afraid of me. And Rhaenyra's like, you stupid motherfucker. he wasn't afraid of you. And then you can like see her. She's like, oh, he doesn't know about the prophecy, the ice and fire thing. Because that's what Viserys was afraid of. Right. And that's why he chose Rhaenyra. So she calls him pathetic and he's like, well, you're pathetic. And then he leaves. Right. Yeah. And then he puts his fucking cool helmet on and
gets on his dragon.
Gets on Caraxes and he's like, fine, I'll go do something rash. That'll show her.
Yeah.
And then flies off with Caraxes.
I'll go get my own castle with blackjack and hookers.
Yeah, exactly. So he's probably off to take Harrenhal, by the way. Yeah. So Rhaenyra sends Baela. She's like, I'm not going to send Jace, but you mean nothing to me, so I'm going to send you.
You're my husband's child.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I was like, well, why don't you send Dad? And Rhaenyra's like, we're not going to talk about your dad.
I don't know where the fuck he is.
Yeah, he just kind of disappeared.
Someone last saw him screaming Leroy Jenkins. We don't know. So she tells Moon, she should like take Moondancer, keep an eye on King's Landing. So there's a really touching scene where Rhaenyra's playing with her kids, and there's a moment where like the sunlight's shining through the window and like it's catching the dust particles. And it looks like the funeral scene with the hops and everything. And it's just one of those, like, the grieving mother thing. Because you know that she's still thinking about Viserys. They don't really have time to mourn him anyway.
Yeah.
The whole thing's crazy. So Alicent takes a bath. And Kristen is banished to guarding the door. Yeah. He may not come in on this one. Kristen he finds Eric. Gets real pissy with him.
There's a sequence, like, at the end of that scene is Alicent like ducking her head under the water and like opening her eyes, and I thought she was trying to drown herself.
You know what was really weird to me about that scene too is right before that happens, there's a shot from behind some like banisters or something, and it's one of those shots that you compose when you want the audience to feel like that person's being watched.
I mean, it's obviously what's his name, Larys. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I can see her feet.
Yeah,
just you drown yourself, but just stick your feet up for me. So Kristen gets real pissy with Eric. And at first he's like, your fucking cloak's dirty. And then he's like, where the fuck were you when the Backstreet Boys reunion tour was happening? Yeah. And he's like, I don't know, where the fuck were you? I was with the king.
Yeah, you're the fucking king.
You're the Backstreet Boys fan. Where the fuck were you?
The captain of the King's Guard. Yeah. This is your fucking job.
And so he's like, okay, well, here's the thing. I'm sending you on a mission. This is a brilliant plan. Fucking get on my brainwaves.
Yep.
Since you and Eric look exactly alike and you both are exactly named Eric, go to Dragonstone, pretend to be Eric, and kill Rhaenyra. And he's like, that's so fucking stupid.
That is the worst plan I have ever heard.
And he's like, well, you're the worst plan I ever heard. Get the fuck out of here. And he's like, okay. Because he's like, are you going to fucking
I'll go on a suicide mission then.
And because he's like, are you going to fucking refuse? Are you a fucking coward? I'm going to have to like tell the king on you or something. And he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. So he leaves, right? So Jace and Baela have this really sweet talk. Baela's like practicing her crossbow skills, which she has.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
She has a crossbow and the skills. And I'm pretty sure that's going to come back at some point later.
For sure.
Yeah. There is this really nice line where Baela asks Jace about Harwin Strong. And he's like, he was this big fucking hulking guy. They called him Breakbones or whatever the fuck. But I'm pretty sure he loved us. And Baela's like, he obviously did. Right. And if you're gonna let that truth be told, you might as well have it between you and your wife, because they're betrothed and whatever. So there's that unspoken thing there, right? So Aemond hangs out at a brothel. It turns out this is what he was doing during his assassination attempts.
During the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah. So first of all, this actor that he's with, she's in season 1 when they go looking for Aegon when he goes missing. Yeah. That's his drama teacher from high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it's
a little weird, but okay.
He is butt ass naked, laying there with her, and she's like,
but they're just kind of cuddling.
His face is like pressed up against her chest and everything. Turns out that Aegon probably isn't the only one with mommy problems. It's just that Aemon's a lot better at hiding them.
He's a different type of mentally fucked up.
I think so, yeah. I saw a bunch of memes about how he looks like it was like the last Harry Potter movie when he meets up with Spirit Dumbledore in the ghostly King's Cross, and Voldemort's little skeleton is like under one of the tables.
Yeah.
He kind of looked like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Like someone should probably feed Aemon a sandwich. he's I mean,
he's a little slender. Yeah.
He expresses some remorse about killing Luke. He's like, I didn't fucking mean to do that.
He's like, the night of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, I'm pretty sure they were trying to kill me.
Yeah, like my life sucks.
Yeah.
Can you be my mom?
Like the prostitute for a second, like she's about to get in there, like, oh, this is the time to do my job. He's like, no, that I just want to cuddle.
Yeah. She pours him a little glass of milk, which
a little weird.
Could be a boob thing, maybe not a boob thing. I don't know.
Maybe it's a Homelander thing.
Yeah. So we spend a little bit of time with Hugh the Ironsmith. Basically, he's got a sick kid, and food is scarce. Remember, I've not read the book, but from what I can tell from people hinting at stuff, he's going to be an important character later on. So Driftmark, we reconnect with Alan, and we meet his brother Adam. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, I haven't read the book. I'm pretty sure these are Corlys's kids.
Maybe.
Like bastard children. Because like his brother Adam's like, Lord Corlys owes both of us and everything. And it turns out that like Corlys is giving some favor to Alan. Like he's letting him like rise through the ranks pretty fast and everything.
I thought that was because Adam was the one who saved Corlys when he got knocked into the sea.
Yeah. Why do you think he saved him? I'm pretty sure that they're his kids.
Maybe.
And maybe he has a thing where maybe that's looking more attractive now than having two bastards, one of which, the heir to Driftmark is dead.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. They're going to go off and have goat stew with carrots though. And he is real fucking excited about it. Rhaenyra and Mysaria have their first scene together since episode 2 of the first season, when she was standing across from her with Daemon at Dragonstone. And it's tense. And Mysaria is like, so Daemon promised to let me go. And Rhaenyra is like, oh, that is not happening.
Daemon is not here.
Yeah. And she notices she has a scar on her neck, which I think is from her being a slave. Because they have the collars, like the slave collars and everything. Yeah. There's this weird, like I said, I've not read the books. And this wouldn't be in the books anyway, because I think it's something, because in the books, Laenor isn't dead, or Laenor is dead. In the show, Laenor isn't. So Adam is like hunting for rocks and shit, and he finds a crab, and he looks up, and Laenor's dragon sea smoke is flying through the air, and he's looking at it like, damn, maybe I would like a dragon now. And sea smoke's like, I don't know who you are, and he flies off, right? So good news, Cheese got caught.
Okay.
Bad news, so did all the other rat catchers.
He didn't get caught, really? Aegon just said,
caught in the news.
Hang all the rat catchers.
Got caught in the news.
Every single one.
So his little dog, Westeros doesn't deserve this dog. Cheese did not deserve this dog. I like to think that he's like, kick me one more time, motherfucker, see what happens. So Otto
comes storming into Aegon's room. You fucking idiot. This is the other
scene where like Otto is just raging.
Incandescent with rage.
Otto, so he's like, you dumb motherfucker. I paraded your son's body in front of the entire kingdom for some fucking internet points, and we were doing fucking great with that. It was working.
We were turning everyone to our side.
Everyone likes you. I don't know
hated Rhaenyra.
Why the fuck they do, but it was starting working. And then you went
and fucking killed a bunch of innocent people.
Yeah, and now they're all pissed at us.
Yeah. What the fuck, dude?
Why? Just like, why would you do that? And
what it ultimately comes down to, I think, is that Aegon is very impetuous and impatient.
And now he's pissed.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's pissed, and he has all the power in the world.
Yeah.
So he already naturally would have been like his very nature would be to do things rather than think and plot and scheme like Otto does.
Yeah.
And now that he has like his own rage of my son went to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. He's just doing things.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. He said something about, I don't want to spill ink. I want to spill blood. Mm-hmm. So Otto realizes in the moment that maybe he and Viserys had a good thing going. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Jesus, I miss Viserys.
I think this is the moment he realizes Aegon is not Viserys.
Yeah.
Like, they are very different. Like, Viserys was content to just sit in his room and build his models and let Otto run the kingdom.
To do everything. Yeah.
Aegon is way more hands-on.
Yeah. So Viserys is, or Aegon's like, well, Viserys is fucking dead. And Otto's like, don't fucking remind me. I know. And let me tell you, kid, we're all fucked as a result. And he said, Viserys is right about you. And Aegon says, my father chose me. And I was like, oh,
you really believe that?
Oh, really? Is that what happens? Yeah. Are you sure? And it's funny, like, we know what happened between Viserys and Alicent.
Yes.
Otto doesn't buy it. Because that, like, Alicent said that, and he's like, oh, that's a good one.
That's the perfect pretext.
Oh, wow, man, you learned fast. That was really good. Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm being serious. It's like, oh, I'm sure you are.
I raised such a good actress.
Yes. So Aegon fires Otto, and who does he hire to be Hand of the King? Fucking Kristen Cole. Because why the fuck not?
This was a terrible choice.
Well, the funny thing about the scene too was that he tells Otto about Kristen Cole's plan to have Rhaenyra killed, and Otto is just like,
just looks at him like.
Eye twitches. He's like, just like
gonna lose it. Have you fallen on your head recently?
Yeah. And like Cole is so proud of himself. So he's like, oh, you fucking. Well, except that, well, like when he tells him to take off the pen, he's like, fucking Cole's going to be Hand of the King, and he's like, I am not qualified for that job.
Yeah.
Just remember that, like, because he was talking about how, like, Otto said something about, oh, the Hand of the King has to be blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I don't want it to be that. I want it to be an iron fist.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, remember the old adage, the king shits, the hand wipes.
Iron would be pretty uncomfortable.
Do you want a big iron fist wiping your ass? Because that's probably what's going to end up happening. So Rhaenyra is like, Mysaria, actually, you can go.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do. And Mysaria is like, thank you.
Okay.
That's
neat.
Strangely reasonable of a monarch, but okay.
But here's the thing. You're going to get on this boat that I've prepared for you. It's going to take you across the ocean, and you are never going to come back here again.
Yeah. And don't go near Daemon again.
Yes.
You'll thank me later.
Mysaria's like, okay, this is understandable. Yeah. Fair enough.
So the guards walk her out to her boat. Mm-hmm. She passes a crowd and sees Eric. And not the Eric it's supposed to be.
She's like...
She does a double take. She does a real funny, like she walks past, she's like, wait, the fuck? And then she turns around and she's like, oh, I better go back. Like, I better...
hold on, Mr. Guard escorting me down to the ship.
Something has developed. I need to talk to the queen.
Eric.
Eric.
Not Eric.
Also Eric.
Yes.
Not Eric equals Eric.
Yes.
Just spelled with an E, I think. Or is he the one with an A?
I don't know.
I think the good Eric is the one with an A in the bad. No, the one with the E. It doesn't matter. They're both named
Doesn't
Eric.
matter. So Eric walks.
I hope their parents went to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
So Eric walks up to the door, and the guard's like, "Sir Eric, I didn't know you went out." And he's like, "Well, you weren't fucking paying attention. Open the fucking door."
Yeah. He's like, I think this is how my brother acts.
Yeah. And he just starts walking through the castle and goes through all the rooms. He's looking for Rhaenyra. At one point, like, the other Eric starts coming, so he like hides.
He does a really cool thing where he just kind of like
slips around.
He notices that Eric isn't wearing his helmet, so he's like, "Oh, I better take my helmet off." Yeah. They are. You can't tell them. I mean, they're actual twins that play the parts. Yeah. You can't really tell them apart. Before I was able to tell them because one of the Erics had like a little twisty mustache, but like he like combed that shit out so that he wouldn't get caught.
Yeah.
So he makes it into Rhaenyra's room.
Rhaenyra's, going to bed. She has her maidservant helping, and Eric comes in and
pulls the sword, and she's like, "What? Did we win the war? Did we lose the war? What? Why are you here? I don't understand." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I gotta kill you." Yeah. And she's like, "Okay,
excuse me."
Fucking Eric bursts in because Mysaria clearly warned him because he knows exactly what's happening. And then there's this look from Rhaenyra. I swear to God, she's like, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I had no idea you had a twin. What is happening?
Yeah.
Is this dinner theater?
And the Erics start fighting.
Yeah. And it's this duel is fucking cool.
Yeah.
The showrunners made sure that they each received the same wounds in the same place so that you wouldn't be able to tell who it was in the moment. It's highly emotional.
Yeah.
You can tell that they love each other very much, and they're driven by their duty to serve the king or queen that they serve. And it ends with Eric killing Eric. The good Eric killing the bad Eric, which they've confirmed. But also it was really, it was obvious because after he kills him, he realizes what he's done. He turns to Rhaenyra and says, "I'm sorry, my grace," and fucking seppukus himself.
Falls on his sword.
Yeah. And like at one point, like Sir Lawrence shows up and it's like, which one is the real Eric? And Rhaenyra's like, I don't know.
they just
I didn't know there were two of them. And he's like, well, go through the door. She's like, it's locked. I don't know what to do. There's a shot from a trailer, and I think I understand it more now, where Rhaenyra has like this table of swords in front of her, and she like picks one. She's like picking them up and checking them out. I don't think Rhaenyra is ever going to be in a room alone without a sword before or again, right?
Wouldn't blame her.
Gotta say, Eric, fucking, like, hats off to you, dude. Fucking was the one that brought Rhaenyra her father's crown, swore to protect her, would give his life if need be, and motherfucker made true on that oath. And
I mean, he didn't need to, but he just did.
Yeah, I think he had to kill him.
Well, okay, so he had to kill Eric, but he didn't have to kill Eric.
Oh, you mean himself?
Yes.
Yeah, someone asked about that on social media on our spoiler thread and was like, I don't understand why he did that. And it's like
he was like, I get it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like if you had a brother, I think you'd understand.
Yeah.
And it's also, I wish this show would stop playing with my child or my like young adult traumas. Like, this show knows I have a brother that died, and it's like, oh, how can we fuck him up when he watches this? Because that scene in the last episode where Rhaenyra and Jace have their first moment after Luke dies, like, I've had a moment like that, and it's just like, oh God, like, get the fuck out of my head with this. But that's why we watch this shit. Like, it's like, it makes you feel something, and that's you know, it's so expertly crafted and well written that it's all perfect. So. Alicent and Otto talk. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going back to Old Town.
Yeah.
And they mention Alicent's other son, Daron, who, as I understand, is in the book, we've never heard of before now. And let me just say that it tracks that like Alicent's got a son out there that she's never mentioned.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't love him either. So she's like, I have a better idea than you going to Old Town. Why don't you go to Highgarden and start getting everyone whipped into shape and we can go to war? And she's like, Dad, I have a sin to confess. And he's like, I don't want to hear it.
He smiles when he says, I don't fucking care.
Yeah. And it's, he's like, I'm not paid to care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. See you the fuck later.
Leaving.
Yeah.
Good luck with your dumb fuck son, the king.
Yeah. Which, by the way, speaking of dumb fuck son, the king, she walks in on him, sobbing to himself, just so much grief. And he's so upset. And a good mother, like Rhaenyra and Jace in the last episode, would move to embrace him and comfort him. She does not do that. She moves to comfort herself, and she goes to Kristen Cole, and she's like, I just walked into my son being terribly bereft. Fuck me. And he's like, yeah, we can't do this again. They have a weird thing where like she like hits him a few times.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that's just because of the situation or if they do this every time.
I think it's the situation.
I think it might be too, but
somewhere in the middle of this, there's a scene where like Aegon and Helena are going opposite ways in a corridor with their respective policies.
I can't believe I forgot to mention that.
And like Aegon like looks at her and then just keeps going, and Helena's really bothered by it.
Yeah, it's the response from Helena is so nuanced because she does this thing where she like, it might be the only person she wants comfort from. I can't tell because she's kind of hard to read, but he walks past her and she does this thing where she nods where she's like, yeah, that tracks. It's more or less what I expected. It's heartbreaking because they've both lost a child, and the same child, and
it suggests that they aren't like they aren't comforting each other for whatever reason, which is what you would expect a married couple that has lost a child.
Yeah, it's hard to because their relationship anyway is really weird.
It's so incredibly fucked up because they're blood relatives who are also married.
Yeah. And it's just, and he didn't want to marry her.
And they're just such radically different people with different issues.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't understand Helene at all. Like we knew that from the first episode where he, like she said something weird and like all the servants like the fuck she's saying. He's like,
we've known he doesn't understand her since the characters were introduced in season 1.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't get it. Why does she play spiders?
Why is she so weird? Yeah. Excuse me while I jerk off over the city.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that, by the way, when Allison walks in on him, I half expected him just to be like, you know what, just to release some tension, I'm going to jerk off into some small folk. But he's not. He's having a little cry to himself, you know?